Alright, what's up guys? So I don't really feel like filming an intro, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this video. So we're going to be discussing today 5 things that nobody wants to tell you about dropshipping. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So before we do, if you like this type of content, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. So with that said, the first thing that no one's going to tell you about dropshipping is that revenue isn't profit. So there's a lot of videos out there, I have some myself where there's, people flashing large revenue numbers, and these numbers are extremely eye-catching, but you have to keep in mind that these numbers aren't all profit. So there's a big difference between revenue, which is just the total amount of money generated by the business as a whole, and then there's profit, which is the amount of money that you can actually take home and use for whatever you want. So when you're calculating profit out of these revenue numbers, you have to go ahead and subtract things like advertising cost, so Facebook ads, Google ads, influencer shout outs, things like that, and then your product costs. So when you go ahead and order those products from AliExpress or wherever you're ordering them from, store costs, so the Shopify subscription plan, the app costs, and everything like that, and then any virtual assistant costs that you have, which most stores are going to have, especially if you're doing large numbers. You most likely have a virtual assistant, at least one, maybe multiple, helping you out when it comes to doing some of the order fulfillment and customer support and stuff like that. So after you subtract all these things, you're typically left with about a 15 to 30% profit margin. Now, this can vary depending on maybe you have a product that just has a crazy 10x margin. I mean, this isn't too common with AliExpress products, but maybe there is a product with just an absolutely insane margin, so your percentage might be higher than this. But around 15 to 30%, especially around like the mid-20s, is about the most common profit margin when it comes to these revenue numbers. And then obviously after that, depending on which tax bracket you end up in and what country you're from and stuff, you're also going to have to subtract your taxes from the profit after that as well. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now, this isn't to say that the profit margins aren't effective in dropshipping, because the profit margins are really good, and in most businesses, revenue is going to be a lot higher than actual profit. That's just how business works, because there's not many businesses out there where there's not overhead costs for advertising, softwares, assistants, employees, stuff like that. So this is just normal type stuff, but it's something that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. They just see these revenue like 1,000 per day and they think it's all profit, but it really isn't. It's usually going to be around 15 to 30%. And as far as business goes, 15 to 30% profit margins out of revenue is actually pretty good, but I just wanted to clear the air on that. So the next thing that no one is going to tell you about dropshipping is that you're going to get a ton of refunds. So when you're selling items of questionable quality, because let's be honest, AliExpress items definitely are sometimes questionable when it comes to the quality of the actual item itself. And when you're selling from a questionable supplier that, it's not like you've talked to them on the phone or anything. It's not like you've seen their warehouse or anything. So a lot of stuff is up in the air. And that, in conjunction with long shipping times, you're going to come to expect and see that there's going to be a large amount of refunds in comparison to other types of e-commerce stores. So the thing that you have to keep in mind, though, is that any e-com business, regardless of your fulfillment strategy, is obviously going to have refunds. That's just how it is in today's day and age. If somebody buys something and it's not what they expect, most of the time, they're going to go ahead and get a refund, or maybe the product's faulty or it didn't arrive on time. So refunds are just a part of the game. However, when you're drop shipping, the refund rate is going to be a lot higher due to the reasons above. Now, I wanted to clarify before we continue that these aren't reasons I'm not trying to dissuade you from drop shipping, because it's a great business model. It's a great foot in the door business model for e-commerce, but I just want you guys to make sure that you know this stuff ahead of time, because drop shipping isn't some perfect business model with absolutely no issues. There's definitely going to be some roadblocks, some humps that you're going to run into. So I wanted to go ahead and give you guys the heads up on these. So like I said, this definitely isn't to dissuade you from drop shipping, but it's definitely, not a flawless business model. I mean, really nothing's a flawless business model. So getting into number 3 is suppliers can sometimes just be absolute garbage and completely unreliable. So sometimes AliExpress suppliers really do just straight up pull some shady ass shit. Sometimes they'll just straight up lie to you, and a lot of times they can be misleading just because, like a lot of people, they're just out there trying to generate their sales, whether that crosses an ethical boundary, I don't know, but this is just the way it is when it comes to these suppliers. So a common example could be something like the supplier on AliExpress says the item ships from the US, but then after a bunch of orders are placed, they end up bulk ordering those products from China during the processing time. So if the processing time is like 5 days, they'll try and get the orders from China to the US in bulk within that 5 days, and then have it shipped to a shipping service in the US, and then have it shipped out. And then a lot of times you'll find if they are doing this, it can be really delayed, and their bulk orders from China won't arrive in the US on time. And sometimes, in very rare instances, you'll actually see that orders sometimes placed with e-packet versus ordering from a US supplier sometimes arrive faster. Now, this isn't to say that this is something that happens all the time with every product that says it ships from the US, but I have heard of it happening to a couple of people. So that's why I brought this up as a common example, because I have heard about it on multiple occasions about people saying that the supplier says the products will ship from the US, but it actually doesn't, and the shipping time ends up being really long. In my personal experience, I haven't ran into this yet. Most of the time when I source products that say that they're shipping from the US, they normally arrive in about 6 to 8 days, so the shipping time's not too bad. However, I have heard stories about people that have ordered products that are supposed to be shipped from the US and they're actually not. So sometimes suppliers can be really shady, and the communication is oftentimes bad. Their English is usually subpar, so it's hard to hold a conversation with them. And then sometimes when you ask a question, you're essentially just going to get a generic response that sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with what you asked. So this can make communication very difficult and hard to get a clear or straight answer on what you're trying to ask. So this isn't to, like I said, put you off from using AliExpress suppliers, but I just want to kind of give everyone the heads up that, suppliers are out there, they're trying to get out there and make their sales and make their money as well. And, when there's a language barrier and when they're on the other side of the country, if you're from the US, then you're going to run into a lot of issues. And I'm not saying that all of them pull shady shit, but some of them definitely do. So it's just something to be aware of, which is why you should always try and vet your suppliers and make an attempt to communicate with them, especially if it's a hot product that you're going to be doing a large volume of orders from. So just keep that in mind moving forward. And the next thing we're going to cover is the fact that you're going to miss out on a lot of potential holiday revenue. So due to slow and unpredictable shipping times, you're going to have to shut off your advertising way before the actual holidays arrive, which means you'll be leaving tons of potential revenue on the table. So let's say you're selling Christmas products, you're selling like Christmas lights, I don't know, anything that has to do with Christmas, you're probably going to have to shut off those ads around like December 10th, maybe even sooner, because the delivery for e-packet is going to be anywhere from 12 to 20 days. So obviously, if someone's ordering Christmas lights, they're going to want them before Christmas, so you can't be advertising them on December 20th if you know that they're not going to arrive by then, because that's kind of unethical and you're just going to get a ton of refunds, a ton of backlash, and you're not going to make any money conducting business that way. So when it comes to drop shipping, especially from AliExpress, especially with the Chinese suppliers, you're going to miss out on a lot of holiday revenue. Now, there are workarounds to this, and it usually involves bulk ordering a winning product ahead of time and sending them to a local fulfillment center. So if you have a product, a Christmas related product that's doing well in like late November, early December, you can go ahead and bulk order, say like 500 or so of them, send them to a local fulfillment center, and then you can continuously sell that product all the way up until Christmas. So that takes a little bit more work though, but it is something you can potentially do. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the last one, which in my opinion I think is the biggest and most important one on this list, which is that this is not a long-term strategy. So dropshipping trinkets and other gimmicky items off of AliExpress just isn't a way to build a long-term sustainable business. And just to be clear, what I categorize as a sustainable business, as a business with long-term growth and branding potential that holds value and can be sold in the future. So a business that is something that can sustain itself. It's something that you can either automate with other people performing certain functions. It's something that, if you walk away for a week, it doesn't just immediately stop making money. It's something to where every single customer you bring in, you're adding one more person into your brand. It's essentially something that keeps growing and can essentially snowball. But the thing is, with AliExpress dropshipping, these type of businesses aren't good at this because their customer experience isn't great, and 99% of your customers are going to be one and done, meaning they're going to buy from your store once, they're going to have a mediocre experience, maybe a bad experience, and they're probably never going to buy from your store again. And that's not really a way to build a long-term brand. If you think of big companies out there, like Apple, for instance, they're so big not because people buy one iPhone and never buy it again. They're big because people buy an iPhone and they just buy a new iPhone every single year, even if it's the same exact thing with a different number in front of it. So that's the thing with dropshipping that you're going to kind of miss out on, at least with AliExpress dropshipping, is that you're not really going to have repeat customers or anything. It's essentially one and done. It's a very good business model for beginners getting into marketing and selling online, but it's definitely not something that I would recommend saying that you can go out there and do this for the next 10 or 15 years. Now, it's not that that isn't possible, but it would essentially be wasted energy at one point, because once you learn how to market, once you learn the marketing skills, there's no point in not transitioning into a more longer term business model, which is the best thing about AliExpress dropshipping, which is you can use all of the marketing skills you learn from this to eventually build a long-term e-commerce brand with your own custom products that is essentially going to establish a brand presence within whatever niche market you're in, and then you can go ahead and grow and build a long-term business that maybe you can sell off in the future. So with that said, guys, if you liked this video, if you found that helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, comment what you think, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I'll see you guys in another video.